Hey there, welcome to episode 136 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo, as usual, recording this at 9:44 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. Hopefully you're having a very pleasant, I guess this could be considered a holiday week, upcoming Independence Day, July 4th. Happy July 4th, if you don't hear from me before. Today's title and topic, screenshots. Shouldn't be very long. It's pretty, I can send you a screenshot if you want. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, if this is your first time listening perhaps, the basic idea is to pick a topic, could be very specific, could be fairly generic, and engage in conversation, debate, argument, take a look at what works, what does not, and what we might do about it. Ultimately, hopefully, a constructive exchange, if not done in good faith. So no bad feelings might result, hopefully. Of the 136 episodes already published, that does include episode 0, and then today would be added to that total. We have yet to have any guests, largely because I haven't invited anyone. You could say it's more interesting to just blather on, as I want to do. On the other hand, I think it might be more useful to establish many baseline options for conversation so that if anybody does want to chime in and take a turn at engaging in conversation, not that I'm like a master negotiator or conversator. I like when people use the conversate. That word makes me laugh. Anyway, I'm not a master at any of the, I'm not an expert in many things. I'm not a master when it comes to debating, just a normal person. But conversation is good. Constructive conversation, slightly better. And if the conversation happens to be on either side of an issue, that can be fine too. Who knows? Progress might be made in some small way. So, screenshots today. Let's see what we got. Hopefully wherever you found this. Oh, by the way, if you don't know what FFS means, you need to hang out with more Irish people. There are something like 55 million people in the United States, for example, who identify as Irish or of Irish heritage. So you'll find one. Hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I will read to you. And then the links for today are just the normal two, the homepage and the profile page linking everything. So let's get started. Let me get some water first. Hang on here a second. Yes, very good. The summary of today's episode. We all use them. They are easy to create and they can be convenient in many situations, yet they can also be misused, and they often are. The links for today's episode, the FFS Talk homepage, ffstalk.com. Enough said. The profile page linking everything is buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. I've had this page for just over 5 years now, so it remains. You don't have to spend any money there, but it is a convenient place to locate a generic link tree. The profile page is completely free form, so I have links. I have biographical information up top, the links to all my various productions. There are links to some projects that might be interesting, and come to think of it, I really need to update that. And some affiliate links if you'd like to get some of my favorite coffee beans or some other products and services that I actually use. So that's at least implicit endorsement. I don't really go into detail, but everything on there I use frequently. Pardon me. As well, the Monday morning Buy Me an Update program is published first at buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. It used to be published there exclusively, hence the name. Nobody goes to buymeacoffee.com for any podcasts. So it's still published there first, and then 2 hours later, it's published in the usual places, and you can subscribe to the RSS feeds or by way of Apple iTunes or podcast, whatever they call it now. Not an Apple person. Amazon podcasts, Spotify. There's an RSS feed. We do publish everything I produce. I publish to YouTube podcasts, if only for the free transcribing service. So you can find a transcription to text of all of my audio programs ever produced on the corresponding YouTube links. Hopefully that's useful or helpful. to those who need or would like such a thing. Such things, I guess. So there you go. Now on with the show. Now I will say I was inspired by a customer support interaction with Google, the Google Play Store, in fact, to remember some of this stuff. And as well, I do indulge in my conspiracy theory tinfoil hat hour. I do listen to, or I watch, I guess. Not really. I don't really watch so much as listen, but the YouTube, emergency vehicle, if you heard that. Hope they're okay. The Candace Owens program is Alex Jones with a more reasonable personality, perhaps. Not necessarily a more reasonable person. Don't come at me, but she's relying heavily on digital media and the metadata associated to support the case or cases that she's investigating and building concerning the death of her friend, arguably the assassination of her friend, Charlie Kirk. And that's what makes it interesting. So I grant a lot of leeway there concerning her motivation. Everybody says it's for money. Maybe. But, if your friend gets killed and there's 100 different camera angles of it, it might be interesting to pursue. And she has a platform, so good for her. However, it is the presumptions about, or maybe assumptions, about the metadata and the nature of digital information, especially captured in videos or, for today's episode, screenshots or images. A screenshot is an image. Different amounts of metadata, but I think these are granted too much credibility. Now, my Google support contact actually had the same problem twice. Once last month, once this month. It is sort of trivial, except that, so if you acquire Google Play points, if you reach the whatever level to get your whatever platinum or diamond or whatever they have, you can convert those to cash. So it's free money. So I do use the money that is converted to pay for some Android application subscriptions. So it's a small thing, but I found it annoying enough so that I actually contacted Google Play support via chat. Now, here's the deal. Last month, I applied a promotional coupon 3x the points per dollar spent. So I expected a certain number of points. I could see, they didn't apply the 3x. So last month I contacted them and the person said, could you send a screenshot of the fact that you activated the promotion and the number of points you actually did, so you wanted like 3 screenshots. So I sent them to him and he said, could you tell me when these were taken? Now, you may or may not know this. I would expect somebody who's working at Google in any capacity, employee, contractor, whatever, to know that Android, for the most part, there are slight variations to this, but Android screenshots generally include the date and time. The date appears as year, month, day. So 2026, 07, 02, for example, for today. And they include the time in the time zone where the photo was taken. Unfortunately, I think it might be, there's a place for UTC, but maybe that's fine. So the time would be 0954:30 or something, 9:54 a.m., which is the current time by my screen clock on my computer. So when he asked that, I think it was a he, I can't remember. The person who asked that, maybe it was a robot. It became clear that they didn't really know. I could have changed those file names and then said, I could have changed the file names and said, I just took them right now, but really they were fake, right? I could have generated these images out of nowhere. Presumably there's some accounting, there's some actual paper trail where they would say, oh yes, okay, we can see the activation here and we can see that you were not awarded the bonus 3x points later, and problem solved. The screenshots were some sort of, I don't know what they were for, other than convincing this person that he should pursue, or he or she or whomever should pursue my assertion that I was not awarded these points that I was due. It became clear that this was not going to be worth the time I was spending on it, but luckily, right at the end, okay, you got your points. And that was it. So I said, well, congratulations on now knowing how time-stamped file names work. Have a nice day, right? A little a little passive aggression at the end. The take home, though, is that what is the value of a screenshot in circumstances such as these? So there's my intro. What works? Especially on a mobile device, capturing an image of the content of your screen can be used to remember details like transaction numbers, dollar figures, the name of a product, and so on. There is some information loss, obviously. This is especially true when there is no URL available, so you can't save the URL for a product page or something, such as within a mobile application. You can't always share the state that's visible on the screen because it's within an application context. And it can be useful not only to save information, but to share it with others, especially, you don't want to share something that would require a login to an account, etc. So URL isn't always the answer, but you can send someone a screenshot. There are usually, not always, not every time, but there are usually better ways of sharing information than a screenshot. But a screenshot does in a pinch. I have another example I'll get to in a moment. I'll get to in the what does not work. For a specific and useful case of sharing, if there is a problem, call the A-team. Now, if there is a problem, a bug of some kind, it can be observed on screen, hopefully, or the evidence of it can be observed on screen, then a screenshot is often useful as part of a bug or issue report to an application developer or even a website developer, website for a company or whatever it is. So developers and designers can observe a visual defect or the display of incorrect information as you are seeing it. Basically an example what the bug looks like. Oh, okay. One time I was using the installed application, the native application, Android app for my credit union, and it was showing incorrect balance information. That's fun. I don't know about you, but bank software, probably the number one priority is to get the numbers right. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. So I literally took a screenshot of what the website access to my account was and what the application at the same time, right? And to be honest, that was the aha moment for the ports. I ended up talking to them on the phone, and they're, oh, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. So they can come in handy. So developers and designers can observe what's happening. So in this case, it wasn't a visual defect, but you could see it visually that the numbers were wrong in the two different places. So similar, slightly different, but in this context, the same solution to the problem, which is here is what I am seeing. This is what the bug looks like, right? I have no additional visibility that you do into how things are working behind the scenes and so on. This is especially true with a mobile application. I just gave that example, but it can apply to anything on screen that may appear to be misbehaving, and of course websites included. If it can be conveyed to the responsible parties in a useful way, that's a little caveat of sorts. Now there are some situations, I had to get some water, sorry. There are some situations, and this is more something that does not work, but it can work. Some cases where a screenshot is evidence for something more serious than an application bug. We can say aspects of some scenario of a legal or maybe illegal nature might appear in messages or some other exchange of information that can be revealed in an image in some way. Though here corroboration is essential. In other words, second source, third source, actual events, an accounting of a conversation from both sides as is depicted in a screenshot of a text message exchange, etc., etc. So these can be useful, but put a pin in that. Well, we will return to that. Now, what does not work? What does not work? A little more water here. There are use cases where a screenshot is useful, but not sufficient. A screenshot is a single photo. A single screenshot is a single photo of what might be a series of events, which may not appear completely in sufficient detail on screen, but there are user inputs and there are other things going on, which happen to be taking place on a screen. So some of the events might not, maybe not all of them, for example, they might not tell the full story. So the screenshot will tell is a snapshot in time, literally, especially if this is if this information is to be shared with others. And that it becomes even more important what's going on. In the bug report case, especially, there is an entire collection of contextual details that lead up to what is portrayed in the screenshot, the details about the platform in use and so on. Like which browser are you using, did you update to the latest version of the app? Those are sort of the first getting through the doorway with support. They're going to ask you all sorts of questions like that. They actually do matter, even though it can seem annoying. The two, for your information, the two things that they're after are you using old software, or is there something that we've already fixed that you're encountering? So old software, using an old version of something really is, it seems basic and silly, but that can be the root cause, right? And then the other one is we need to capture the information as you know it so that we can try to reproduce this. So we can do it on our side. If you've ever seen movies with space travel where NASA, or if you saw The Martian, JPL, they have an exact copy of the thing on Mars right there in front of them in the office. So if they can reproduce problems here, they don't have to go over to Mars. They don't have to come to your house and see, can I see your phone for a second? So the more context information, what was I doing? How did I reach this point? Why does it look like this? And so on. So those things, the screenshot is a part of, but that is not always clear. That is not always obvious to people. The details about the platform in use are just as important as everything else, really. A screenshot on its own is often not sufficient, though some might treat that screenshot as though it is. Like, no, I took a screenshot. I don't know. Where do I find the version information? There's all kinds of questions that arise. And this can lead to confusion and worse, especially when it is something simple like, oh, you're using Android, I can't remember what they call it. You're using Android Apple or whatever they called the first one. Ice cream. You're using, I know that was one from a long time ago. You're using ice cream? You got to use whatever Android 17 is, or I think 12 is one of the 7 and 12, I think, or 11, 7 and 11, are sort of the long-term editions. So I think Android 7 or later is a common one. Who knows? Not an Android developer by trade or practice. Now, in the case where I was contacting Google Play support, again, like I said, I think the screenshot was to satisfy the person that I was person or robot I was interacting with, that there was, context for that person. Eventually, it became clear that they have no access to account details or running point totals or point credits or debits, transactions, and so on. These are not dollars; they're just points. So this person or robot now has some sort of context. They can see what I'm seeing, but it still required text messages back and forth in this support chat. So often a screenshot is not enough. It's part, but not the whole story. But that's not clear always to the person in this case, it would have been on my end of that conversation. So submitting a screenshot and saying it's broken is not as useful as people think, but because people use screenshots so casually and with such confidence, that can go astray. Screenshots are a substantial reduction in information on their own most of the time. If there's text that you want to capture, URLs, numbers, dollar figures, specific information becomes pixels in an image. So they're sufficient for visual inspection, but not much else. While some of this could be reconstructed with optical character recognition tools or OCR, this is not always possible, especially if there's a link, or if the text becomes corrupted or if the image becomes corrupted in some way, or if there's text in the image on the edge, or it gets cut off, you didn't scroll down, you didn't have the full context, you need 5 screenshots to capture everything, and you only sent 3, things like this. So you could be filtering information. Here's that example I mentioned. So there was a location that someone needed to find. So I created a Google Maps shortcut link, intended to be shared with people. And when you paste that into a text message, especially on an Android device, if they do a link preview, you'll get a small card with a little kind of a excerpt image of the general area represented in the map. So the nice thing about sending someone that share link, and I don't know if Apple Maps does the same thing. I assume it does. It's a pretty basic feature. You click on the URL, your platform, Apple or Android or whatever, iOS, I guess, might say, oh, instead of going to the web browser, we use the native Maps application on the device. Okay. And then you'll get the location, and you may be offered an opportunity directly, or you can then use that that information and enter your current location, or it will pick that up from GPS perhaps. Here's where I want to go. Give me directions to get there, and they'll route you for driving or walking or whatever. So a lot of information with very little as a starting point, right? Here's a shortened URL. From here, you will be able to figure out how to get to that point. Okay, wonderful. And that was the goal. Unfortunately, the person I sent it to then forwarded it on to the person that was actually traveling. I think I didn't have their contact information or something. So I said, here, just send it. And, we don't have to worry about exchanging content. Just here's the link, send it to her or him. I can't remember. It was a person. I think it was a couple, maybe. I knew where they were headed. They were not quite sure. Probably here in Vegas, if I remember. Maybe. It doesn't matter. So the thing that was forwarded was a screenshot of the text message that I sent. So now it's just a picture of a URL, literally a picture of https:// link. Completely useless. Completely removed all useful information from the image. Now, the person could have retyped the URL text into their web browser, for example, or I'm sure the address was probably in the card, right? A little excerpt of the map and probably the destination address. I can't remember. But basically, sending an image has removed most of the information and utility that was associated with the original URL. So this was a complete and total breakdown of the utility of the information that was sent by converting it into a screenshot. It's a substantial loss of information in that process, and that can happen in general. When I sent the screenshots of my credit union bug that I found in their app, I'm not sending them a picture of my life story in bank transaction history form. I'm sending them a comparison, one transaction line or one balance item or whatever it was, comparing it between the web version and the app version. Visual inspection was more than sufficient. Even any other numbers that were visible were not the point. The point was, here's what I am seeing. So in that case, I wasn't removing information. I was actually probably hiding more information that didn't need. And, you would think someone who works at the bank would probably have some access to some of that information. Maybe, probably. Who knows? Who even knows anymore? The point is, there's a time and a place to limit the amount of information. A screenshot will show a visual representation of a text message conversation between the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen. So you're not sharing the entire story over days, months, years, right? So there's a time and a place for that, but that loss of information must be understood. And sometimes it is not. I'm going to say maybe more than sometimes, but anecdotal. On the other side of the spectrum, you see YouTubers. So there's a time and a place to share images and so on. And with the understanding, often not, of that information loss. On the other side of the spectrum, we see YouTubers, especially. I referred to Candace Owens as one, but the entire world has gotten into crime, crime stories or whatever. So we see YouTubers and other content creators using screenshots of messages exchanged and similar. These are often when there are beefs between YouTubers. Here's a screenshot of a text I got from that other person and made me angry and so on. Here's the proof that they sent me a message referring to the content of the image and perhaps, messages exchanged and similar. So that's that. Referring to the content of the image and perhaps as misleading, which is not good grammar. So you're suggesting, hey, look, this is what they said, but this is not what actually happened or whatever the case. So-called metadata of the screenshot. This is the timestamp of the screenshot. Now that could be the time that the image was taken. That may not make any sense in terms of when the conversation took place. The date and time of a conversation of each item, each message that was exchanged may not be displayed directly in the image. So here you're filtering information again. It might be when the image was captured or saved or even copied to another device. By extension, photos taken with mobile devices, so your mobile camera, nowadays your camera. Hey, you can use your camera as a phone. I think that was a Norm Macdonald joke. They have EXIF data. I don't remember what EXIF stands for, EXIF. If it's enabled and not removed from the image, and that's one of the things, you can actually remove the image data and replace it with your own. So there's even more metadata there, including, let me get some more water. It's actually dry today. Okay, sorry. So you'll have the location, the latitude and longitude of where the image was taken, unless that's turned off. You'll even have the camera orientation, landscape, portrait, the focal, the camera properties, the focal length, and I think it'll tell you focus information, like where it was focused to. I can't remember now, but you get some extra information. Screenshots can, and this is always becoming more true, are sometimes and sometimes actual images, right? Of course, probably more often images, photos, let's say photos, are generated. It's a little bit harder to generate a full photo of a person and have it pass muster, 100%. Like, that looks fake. That's becoming easier and easier to do, though. They can be generated or altered. So you can take an image that is real, but then change details and have your generative AI tools do that for you. So things are getting better and better and better. With these modern tools we have, perhaps to pursue an agenda. Maybe you want to stake a claim to your YouTube audience about a competitor, or there are too many of these soap operas going on, but you probably have heard of one or two at some point. And nowadays it's between politicians and leaders and news agencies and who knows who else. Any file data in an image can be altered or created as needed. So you can delete the original EXIF data. It's just a text section in the file data, right? It's a text section in the file's text. Right? Okay. Anyway, inside baseball. So you can alter the data, or you can edit EXIF data, no problem, right? So it stops it being real evidence. The file doesn't maintain a history of the EXIF changes. So it's a lot like when you redact a document by drawing on the screen with a black visual element. The data is still in the document. You've just created a visual redaction. You've not removed the data from the document. So this happens all the time. So it's even more fundamental than screenshots. It's a fundamental understanding of what it means to remove information or alter it in a document of any kind that you're intending to share or publish. So maybe that's a bigger problem. I think I've talked about redactions before, in fact. So many episodes. So more and more true, the screenshot may not actually represent reality, or it can be attempting to misrepresent reality. And the so-called metadata you can edit the creation time. I mean, these are pieces of information that are edited by your computer or by your phone when files are created. So there's nothing magical. There's no cryptographically secure information exchange because you don't have a key to check against. You can't, no public key, private key pairs to compare when it's at the other end. There's all sorts of things missing from the credibility presumption. So creation, modification times, all this can be altered or removed completely. They can be set to something ridiculous. You took this picture in 1970, in the year zero, in 2029, without reliable corroboration, which would be ideally coming from not screenshots, not text exchanges. Maybe if you have the phone, maybe if you have the physical message exchange document, which is the collection of text messages in the history. And by the way, you can get those from the phone company, from your carrier. They keep all that stuff, unless it's encrypted. Sometimes not. Always use encrypted messaging tools. So something other than a screenshot to corroborate. So if I show you a screenshot and then they can obtain other participants in a group chat, the other person in a one-on-one chat, if they can retrieve historical records of an ongoing chat from the carrier service, maybe it's the actual maybe you're using Google Messages and they keep a copy because, for example, you can share your messages between your phone and your computer. So you can text from your computer or your phone to that. So because of all these things, those messages become slightly less, they're not end-to-end encrypted in that case, unless you're tricky, unless they've actually done the extra work, but it's not always easy. Anyway, okay. The take home, if you show someone a screenshot and then they can show you the real message exchange, you're gonna be in trouble. But so corroboration will actually be able to weed out some of these things. Now, YouTubers are not doing that. So anytime there's a screenshots or images of dubious provenance, where did this come from? Who sent me this? How did this come to be? Screenshots and images might not be real evidence of anything other than intrigue and a different kind of criminality, fraud, falsifying evidence. You can accuse people of things and they're false accusations. That's also a problem. So there's all manner of things. And if we just presume that screenshots are credible, are correct, are being offered in good faith without an agenda other than proving something, not attempting to prove not something. Does that make sense? The entire notion, but screenshots especially of chats. Here, he sent me a direct message. She sent me this picture in chat. Okay, did they really? So there's a presumed credibility assigned to these things often, I think just because it's habit and momentum now behind the concept. Oh, it's so hard to fake a screenshot. No, it is not. So what can we do about this? You're on board, right? On the one hand, in the cases where the screenshots are useful, such as bug reporting or making a note of something visible, making a note of something visible on the screen. So you're literally saying, oh, I need to remember this number, but I can't copy and paste it. Sometimes copy paste is disabled. Sometimes screenshots are disabled. So it can become tricky to use a screenshot for everything. I want to remember this number. So you literally have to find a writing instrument of some sort, and that could spend, that's a whole day right there. Does anybody have a pen or a pencil? Does anybody know what those are? As long as the limitations and use cases are at least partially understood, screenshots are useful. Sending a screenshot of a URL or a screenshot of a visual defect in a mobile application without any extra detail concerning how to reproduce the situation. How did you get here? What happened? What was happening right before this? Then the screenshot itself is not so useful. Definitely in the case of the URL, obviously. So some base understanding of what a screenshot is and what it is not would come in handy. And I'm almost concerned that we're moving away from that comprehension. So that's something that we have to become more familiar with if we aren't already. On the other hand, screenshots of unknown provenance, don't know where this came from, don't know who took it, don't know what's going on, especially if used to prove a point as the basis of a personal attack, those can go south really quickly. As evidence, in the layperson sense, of some claim or occurrence, this definitely happened. There's a screenshot of the whatever. Maybe, who knows? These should rarely be treated as trustworthy. If people who do not comprehend the difference between these, who misspells to? This is a their problem. I broke TO, not TWO. The person who doesn't comprehend the difference between these two ends of the spectrum can easily conflate a utility screenshot and an evidentiary claim around an image where there is no equivalent credibility across the two. In other words, I took a screenshot and sent it to Google to provide extra information for my case, and they accepted it. So that's valid. So why not this other screenshot or image as evidence of a crime committed or a conspiracy to commit a crime? Look, this text message between these two people, they said they were going to steal my skateboard, and somebody stole my skateboard. It must be them. Yeah. I don't have a skateboard, by the way. Understanding the fragility of evidentiary images in general in this modern era, which is always becoming more capable, and when it comes to altering and generating images, I mean, it's getting to be so that why bother providing images as evidence? It would be a positive step, a substantial positive step, if there was this level of understanding, especially of the fragility, right? This image, it looks like this, but it's not actually that. It was completely fake. It was altered. The associated metadata, they changed the location. Yeah, this picture was not taken at the person's house. It was taken somewhere else entirely. But they adjusted the latitude and longitude to show that the picture, it was taken at their home. Maybe not. So it's unlikely that people will make this extra effort to understand these things, but it would be nice. It's unlikely, but it would be nice. Outside of a courtroom, use of evidence as part of larger pursuits around crime solving or conspiracy theory assertions and similar. These can be a waste of time at best. And again, there are some that are, you kind of got to give some people some room if it's a personal thing. If they have the resources to do real research and background information searches and so on. So I give Candace Owens credit for that, but I mean, her larger worldview that it's flat sometimes, moon landings are fake. There's a lot of things that would give pause, but for her pursuit of truth regarding her friend and his apparent assassination, okay, as people say now, let her cook and see what comes of it. The accusations are a little bit tricky, and if you're using data and images and descriptions of events from people of unknown identity or information of unknown provenance or any number of things that motivated reasoning, right? Ooh, this fits our narrative. Let's include it. That can run into trouble. So at best, it could end up being a waste of time. And at worst, you can actually do real damage. You can damage reputations, credibility, especially if you're the one making false claims. You can injure people's mental health. These become apparent in lawsuits. Sorry, water break. These become apparent in lawsuits when people end up having to run from the public. Like false accusations have been made, people believe them, harassment, if you like, ensues, people become frightened and worse. And it could lead to physical health problems, damaging a person's well-being, or worse. We don't have to describe the worst cases, but the pressure can increase to unbearable. Naive reliance on metadata and assumed image credibility and provenance can go wrong. Correcting this trend would require mass education, or maybe in other ways to just dilute the dubious image terrain with a substantial and troubling number of similar AI-generated images with all manner of falsified metadata and whatnot. So, I mean, this is almost a counter strategy. Here's one image of this that you're alleging is accurate. Well, here's a million images. Same time, same place, same background, but replacing, in this one, it's, I don't know, Bozo the Clown. And this one, it's, what's that guy, Ed? Who's the Terrifier clown? Is it Ed? You can just replace images with clowns and celebrities and who knows what, right? You can do all manner of things now at scale, which would dilute the dubious content. So now, really, when that happens, on the one hand, you might make everything worse because now everybody's creating images, and sometimes they don't know that everybody's creating images, so someone might accept an image as evidence and so on, evidence in quotes. But ideally, it would make people more aware that, I'm going to have to check this. So now I have not only one image, but I have 1,000,001 images. The one that I thought was correct, okay, let's actually check. They may discover, look, the timestamps or the indicated location, or hey, this screenshot of the chat, this isn't possible to have this they allege it was taken at this time, but that at that time the person didn't have access to their phone, whatever it is. So you would actually need to verify the credibility, the correctness, the accuracy, the validity of such things. So the value placed on a screenshot, the take-home message from this, the value placed on a screenshot really depends on, it's what you're using it for, right? I need to remember this number so I can look it up when I get home. It came across in a news feed or something, and I can't copy the URL, so I'll just take a quick screenshot and okay, I'll get to it later. Same with taking photos of things. I used to take a photo of where my car was when I was traveling so much. So I take a picture of the number under my car in the parking space at the short-term parking. go to a hackathon on the weekend, come back. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It was on the 3rd floor. Right. Number 7. Great. So useful, not evidence of much. I was not going to fake my own image. But as people put more and more credibility, more weight on the shoulders of these screenshots and the people who send them, or when you accept these things from anonymous sources, or where'd you get it from? Oh, I got it from a friend of mine. Now it's 2-3 degrees of separation, the chain of evidence, and so on. Normal people don't really worry about such things, or maybe they're not even aware. Oh, I didn't know you could change the EXIF data. There was something, and I want to say it was around the Snowden drama. There was something where a file was on, like a zip archive or something was on a thumb drive. This is not a screenshot, obviously, but some large file was on the thumb drive, and someone said, "Oh, if you look at the creation and update times, this file was created in like 5 seconds, but it would take much longer than that to download, so it must be fake." Completely ignoring the possibility that someone merely copied it from their computer to a thumb drive. Oh, I downloaded it and it took 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it is. But copying it to my thumb drive locally took 4 seconds, 8 seconds, whatever. You could probably do the math to figure out what the download bandwidth was, and then the copy local USB bandwidth. You could do those transactions. You could do the math for those transactions. But instead, people just assumed, oh, it must be fake because you couldn't download this file in 10 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever it was. Hello, you could, first of all, you can alter the creation and update times. It's entirely possible someone wanted to obfuscate the time that they were engaged in this conversation where the files were transferred. There could be any number of reasons, but if you're ignorant to these facts, you will trust the data that is presented. And screenshots, I think, are fueling that trust assigned to digital information we receive. Oh, here's a text message they sent me. I didn't fake it. It must be completely true. I have no reason to lie. Yeah. So once people just accept that at face value, the rest is easy. And I think people need to, well, this is generally true in the modern era. People are just going to have to be more aware of what technology means and what it can do, what you should trust and what you should verify, et cetera, et cetera. So that is where we're going to leave it today. This went on much longer than I thought it would, but I think the screenshots are not the only problem. I think they're the enabler, the gateway to problem, which is misplaced trust, maybe not putting in the due diligence to verify, to confirm and validate provenance. Who sent me this? How are they involved? What's the chain of possession, at least? Who had this before? Where did you get it from? People don't want to spend the time doing that, so it's easier to just accept it. But I have a feeling this will be a thing in the next couple of years, just in general, already, but just over the next couple of years, until there are some suitably capable, perhaps AI tools to assist. Like, oh, here's an image I just received. Hang on, human. Let me do some checking. You know, you could check the actual image for artifacts of reality, or I mean, you know, to the extent you're able, or the tools are able, and then perform some other verifications, validations from online resources, etc. Who knows? Who knows what will be possible? That's probably a startup idea right there. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you for listening as always. Do consider taking a screenshot of your finishing this episode and sending it to media@ffstalk.com. Wouldn't that be fun? Calls to action, I think, are the only way to know people are actually listening or reading your newsletters or something. That might be something to think about. I am curious. I'm curious to know if people are getting any value out of these. Anybody can listen to any of these at any time, of course. There's nothing behind any paywalls or anything. So one of these days I will try to assess the value people are receiving if anybody reaches an aha moment. And of course, it would be nice if somebody said, I have a different viewpoint, and we will get there eventually. That is where I'm going to leave it for today. Happy Independence Day once again, if you are listening to this anywhere near July 4th, 2026, or any other year. And let's hope future years are also independent. That's all I have to say about that. Take care. Catch you later.